But anytime you're buying an apartment building, I don't care if it's a 2-unit duplex or a 150-unit apartment complex, it's going to follow this exact same pattern, right? And pillar process you have to follow and know the nuance in between. You got to find good deals, right? How do you find good deals? We're going to get into that tonight. How do you analyze them quickly? Determine whether it's a good deal so you can actually make an offer or not and move on. Third is kind of the financing and capital side. It's where a lot of people get stuck, right? I can't raise money. Nobody I know has any money. I don't know where to get the money. I don't know how to do the financing. All the limiting beliefs that you create about the money and the financing side, right? Totally normal, but we got to break through some of that stuff. And then number 4, closing the escrow. Okay, I have this thing locked up. We're going in. I'm going to close on it. How do I do it, right? How do I do inspections, financial inspections, all this stuff to close on this property and avoid a money pit? And then lastly, hey, I own this beautiful apartment complex. I don't want to deal with the toilets and tenants every day. So how do I hire property managers correctly? So that way I can do my current job that I'm doing and allow the day-to-day activities to be managed by a good property manager. And then I just kind of fall into a role, what's called an asset manager, where you're kind of managing the managers. So that's step number 5, okay? So that is kind of the 5 pillars that we kind of walk through and guide through in buying an apartment complex, because it does not change. So how to buy an apartment in the next 90 days and do it with as little out-of-pocket capital as possible. And really my promise to you tonight is this, right? Specifically, how can you do this in the next 90 days with as little as 20,000 bucks out of pocket? How could you pull that off? That sounds crazy. How can I buy a multi-million-dollar deal with $20,000 out of pocket? You do it through scaling with money. You do it with other people's money, OPM game, okay? Any business owner in the United States, every investor that's ever done real estate, in a large scale, and any scale, multifamily, they all understand this game that you're going to learn. And it's the game of OPM, other people's money. And in order to do this game, I need you to take a couple limiting beliefs that we're going to break through tonight and throw them out the window. Because if you don't get rid of those and go in and try and jump off a cliff with me, then you're going to be sitting here 12 months from now doing the exact same thing. And then what would that do for you? Like if you were literally in the exact same situation 12 months from now and nothing had moved, right? But you still want to do this, what is that going to do for you? How's that going to feel? So that's what I want you to feel tonight. But is that going to be worth it to you, right? If we can show you that tonight, chime in the chat. If I can show you how to buy a 10 to 30 unit apartment building in the next 90 days with $20,000 out of pocket, is that beneficial to you? Okay. Yeah, and Jason, I saw you in here. Yeah, so we own 6 mobile home parks too. So mobile home parks are great. So the asset classes that we really like is obviously multifamily numero uno. Mobile home parks right behind that, if not kind of right in alignment with it. And then storage facilities. So all 3 of those are great. There's other asset classes in commercial. It just depends on what you like and what you think is best for you and what you're trying to accomplish. So, okay, full disclaimer. You're not going to become a millionaire tonight and or with one apartment building, but you will begin to set yourself up, right? And that stage for you in your life and for that future self, I call it, right? If you're trying to do things for you and for your family and you're hustling, you're working your butt off and you just want to get to the next stage and level, it's important that you understand this game of money and how you move money and how you scale money with other people's money, because this is how it's done. Okay, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, less than 10% of Amazon he owns. He understands the OPM game. Elon Musk, 10% or less of Tesla. He understands that. Any major business, you can keep going. They all own less than 10%, right? They're taking some of their money in conjunction with other people's money and they're scaling to the moon and beyond. And that's how they've done it. And we're going to do that tonight. So everybody needs to know that everybody starts like somewhere. Everybody does. I started with 1 condo. $100,000 in 2010 in the midst of the financial crisis. It was a tough time, but that's when we bought our first condo, right? And it was right in the midst of chaos. And I'll get into that here in a minute, but it cash flowed nicely. We put $25,000 down, took out a $75,000 loan, and that was our first deal. Like it didn't make that much money per month, but the percentage returns were amazing. 27% cash on cash annual returns. It was incredible, but right, that's where you start. And then you start to learn a little bit of this game of like, gosh, like, we got one deal, that's great, right? But we want more. How do we do that? How do we scale our money if we're running out of our own money? So you have 2 options to do this. Option A is you do it all with your own money. That's option A. But you're not going to go very far because you're probably going to run out of your own money. right? You're going to run out of your own money. So you have to realize that in order to scale and grow, you have to do option B, which is other people's money. You're going to bring in some of yours, right? You have to have some capital in the game, right? Some capital in the game. The idea of having no money in deals, I appreciate all the gurus online teaching this stuff, but they're full of crap. Okay, it's not realistic. It's possible. It is possible, but it's possible to get hit by a meteor next week too, right? It's not that likely, right? You need some skin in the game, and I'm going to explain why this evening. So option A or option B. So this was the financial crisis for me. Okay, and if you went through that and you knew that time, I had to watch my dad go through a massive bankruptcy in 2008 and 2009 to 2010. He was kind of that transitional character for us in our family. I learned from my grandmother and my father. I'm a third generation, I guess you'd call it. God bless her soul. She was 91 years old, driving around S10 truck, collecting rent and doing that for most of her life. And she did well for herself. She owned most of the deals with her own money, and that was totally fine. And then my dad understood this game of OPM, other people's money. He just structured it a little bit differently. He got into the build and sell game, right? Building subdivisions of homes, selling them. Building a subdivision of apartment complexes, selling them, not holding them. Building condos, selling them, right? Nothing was held. Nothing was held. And then you'd also get stuck, right? Because if you hit market cycles, right, what goes up must come down. And if you get over leveraged, the party can end pretty quickly. Hence the reason for 2008 financial crisis. Because he got over leveraged, had a ton of deals, couldn't sell them because he was in the build and sell game. Everything imploded. And he went through a massive BK. And I had to watch that. But what I learned through that was unbelievable. I learned a couple things. Number one, cash flow is king. Number two, do not over leverage. So keep in mind, when you do apartments and you do this game that I'm talking about, you're not putting on more than 70% leverage or debt on any of these properties. And you're keeping them in line of cash flow from day one. And you have tenants and everybody else paying all the expenses and everything on the buildings. So you're just using OPM all across the board. You're using tenants OPM. You're using other people's OPM, other investors that maybe want to invest with you, all the above. But you have to understand the game of leverage and the game of money and the game of real estate. When you do, this is how this works, okay? So that was the financial crisis. I went right through it. Then 2008 to 2010, I became an asset manager for a lot of the major banks around the country doing their REOs and foreclosures for them and doing the asset management side. But then I kind of came out and jumped into the world in 2010 as I had a real estate broker's license at that time. I was selling properties, right? Helping people buy and sell real estate. I was doing a lot of short sales then too, an enormous amount, but we also wanted to buy. So that's when we started buying with the condo, right? Started with one condo. And you can kind of see the trajectory. So one condo in 2010, fast forward 8 years later, we had 20 units and about $3.5 million in assets. Now for most, you'd say that's pretty good. And like we thought that was pretty good too, but we also wanted to go bigger and scale more and have more. And we had, all of this was with our own money at this point. So we wanted to do more. We just didn't have any more money to do it. So we had to understand this game of like, okay, how can we pull out equity, use the same equity, and then move it into more assets to scale our money? How do we do that? And that's where the game of OPM and syndicating comes in. So this is kind of the current package today. 2018, 20 units, $3.5 million. Today, over 1,000 units and $185 million. Same equity, nothing changed, right? We didn't bring in more capital. It's the same capital from our 20 units. All we did was move it in with other people's money to scale. So I ask you this question. You can have 100% of $3.5 million, or you can have 40% of $185 million. Which would you choose? 40% of 185. Yes. Yeah. The math adds up. Math adds up. Always use other people's money. Well, yeah. And keep in mind, you're doing it in conjunction. So you have skin in the game. So it's not like you're not using your own money. You're using some of your money with other people's money, So yes. Yeah. Flipping, multifamily, and mobile home parks. So that's what we currently do. Good question though. So my first 10 to 30 unit apartment building, this is it. 27 units, right? We bought it. It looked like that on the left. not horrible, but kind of run down 1970s building. And then we put about 300 grand into it and turned it into what it looks like on the right. Right. And we made a bunch of money doing it. Cash flow, profits, everything, tax benefits, the whole 9 yards. So, and this was a little, under 30 unit deal in the Midwest, right? In the Midwest. But in order to get there and do this, right, you got to get by this mindset thing. Here's some limiting belief patterns. I want you to choose a few of them that you feel stop you. And I'm curious. Don't be shy. Okay, don't be shy. Yeah, choose the ones, whether it's balancing investment with personal life, limiting access to the financing and capital, risk of losing money, fear of market volatility, fear of making bad investment decisions. I don't know how to finance and raise money. I don't know people. I don't know how to help me. On and on and on, right? Lack of knowledge about multifamily. I mean, you name it, right? And these are all the things that are naturally coming into your mind. You're sitting here on the webinar, and these things are normal. And these are what stop us all, because we think it's too hard, it's too complex. All the things, right? It takes too much money, all the things. It's hard to find good deals, all the above, all the above. So yeah, that's cool. I'm getting to see good stuff on here. Let me end that poem. I'm going to share the results with you so you can kind of see it across the board. So for most, limited access to financing and capital, pretty standard. See that a lot. Fear of making bad investment decisions. Fear and risk of loss of money. Totally normal. Keep in mind though, multifamily, what you're getting into, what you're considering getting into, is one of the safest investments you'll do. Because I want you to think about it for a minute. It's a tangible asset that has tenants living in it. Those tenants paying rent. Those rents paying all the expenses, covering the mortgage, covering everything. You're keeping the leverage low, so you're not over leveraging the property, which means you have a lot of bandwidth if things go wrong. Still, things get paid. One tenant moves out, you still have other tenants paying everything. You're limited risk. Most of the loans are non-recourse loans, which means you're not personally signing on them. Okay, most. So there's a lot of risk mitigation when you get into this space to kind of get you over that. Okay, stop sharing that. So the mindset's key. So we need to get through a few things. Okay, how can you buy the 10 to 30 unit deal in the next 90 days with $20,000 out of pocket? In order to pull that off, we've got to get past this belief pattern that you need a lot of money to do it. You just don't. Okay, so we're going to work through that. Belief pattern number 2, multifamily is too complex. You have to be an expert. Number 3, deals are too hard to find. I can't find good deals. The market's oversaturated. Those are probably the top 3 that I hear the most. So let's get through the first one. Let's work through the belief pattern that you need a bunch of money to get started. Here's how you do not. Let's take a $1.5 million deal, right? Let's say it's a 15 unit somewhere in the Midwest, $100,000 a unit. You're going to put in $100,000 to improve the property, renovate it, reno, and then you have closing costs of say $50,000. So all in costs $1,650,000. All in costs $1,650,000. You're going to go out and get a loan for $1,150,000. That's about 70%. Remember, 70% debt. Keep the leverage low. That means you're coming in with about 30% is your down payment. That's your equity. That's 500 grand. Now, if you went right into the limiting belief pattern like most people do, they're saying, well, I don't have 500 grand. I can't do it. You immediately stop because you're thinking of the money side. You're not realizing how that money can be put together. You are going to be coming in with about 10% of that money required. Right? It's about 50 grand. The rest from OPM, other people's money, that's actually about 450, not 495, 450. Now, that OPM game, keep in mind, that money could be friends and family. It could be people in our community. It could be seller helping finance the deal. That happens a decent amount. It could be private lenders. It could be other people. I mean, all the above, guys. You have to understand that as long as you have a good deal, the money will find you. It will always find you. Money loves making money, and it loves making money fast. Okay, so you just have to have a good deal. So we're going to focus on that. But based on this, and it gets even better, okay? Because with this, you're bringing in 10% of the money. You're getting 40% of the deal. Okay, so you're scaling your money 4x right there. You're bringing in 10%. You're getting 40% of the deal. But you have 100% control. Okay, so distinguish control from ownership. You have 100% control of the deal, 40% ownership of the deal, You only brought in 10% of the money. You 4x'd your money overnight. The best part about it is you get it's called an acquisition fee for putting the deal together. That's typically 2 to 3% of the purchase price. In this case, let's use 2%. So that's $30,000. So follow me here. You brought in 50. At the close of escrow, within like 6-7 days of closing on the property, you're getting a check back to you for $30,000. So you have $20,000 out of pocket, and you have control of a 15-unit multi-million-dollar apartment building for $20,000 out of pocket. Are you following me? Christine, you asked, why is it 40% equity? It's not you're talking about your ownership. That can change. So it could be 30%, it could be 40%, it could be 50%, but right in that range is typically what you get when you're essentially the general partner on the deal, because you're the one that found it, you're putting it together, you're syndicating the deal. You're bringing in only 10% of the money, and you're getting 40 or more percent of the deal. That's why. Yeah, so that's why the equity. So you're getting that. Does that answer your question, Christine, or no? Hopefully it does. But that's why, because you're only bringing in 10%. So because of that, you're getting 40% of the deal, right? You can bring in all the money. If you want to bring in $500,000, sweet, then you get 100%. But if you can't do that, which most people can't, maybe you have $30,000, $50,000 to invest. This is how you put it together. You have to understand a skill set and have the skill set to do it. And that's why you're here tonight, to learn the skill set. Okay, that's why you're here. Another question came in. What's the investment in our mentorship? What's the investment? I'm ready to go. Oh, hey, Ray. Good to see you. We'll talk about that here tonight. Yeah, if you want to have interesting questions on that, we'll chat about that here at the end. I appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, that's how you're kind of going to do this little 15-unit apartment deal. Okay, just from a high level on the financing, okay? Really, really important. So frequently asked questions I get. Number one, I want to make an extra $10,000 to $20,000 a month, Justin, in income from this type of investing. How many deals, how many 10 to 30 unit apartment deals do I need to do to make $10,000 to $20,000 a month? Okay, is that probably a question you're asking? The answer is 3 to 4. Because on average, a 10 to 30 unit building is going to produce about $2,500 to $4,000 a month free cash flow to you in your pocket. Okay, to you in your pocket. And that's net of all expenses, all mortgages, all everything. Okay, net. So keep that in mind. So if you're saying to yourself, okay, how do I actually do this? And I'm in a job right now, I'm earning X. I want to do this and earn $10,000 to $20,000 a month to maybe replace that income. That way I can say adios, sucker, and now I'm doing multifamily. Maybe that's an option for you. 3 to 4 deals, okay, to get there. Okay, it took me about 2 years for me to transition as a full-time real estate professional and selling homes to full-time multifamily. It took me about 2.5 years to do that. But I was replacing a lot more. I was replacing a good amount of income. I was making a lot of money selling houses. I was in Southern California, luxury homes. We were making some good money, but I wanted to get out of that transactional hamster wheel. So if you're a realtor in here tonight and you sell homes, totally fine. You need to be buying real estate as well. And you need to learn this game and play it. So that way you can leave the hamster wheel at some point and move into this investment world. Okay. So if you're a realtor here tonight, chime in the chat, thumbs up. That way you can understand this game and you can move forward. If you're a 9 to 5, I was chatting with a tech guy today and he earns good money, but he wants to position it and start buying multifamily. So that way at some point he can leave that 9 to 5 tech job, of which he's earning 6 figures a year, doing well. But he wants to position it for him and his family so he can spend more time with his family, right? Because he's doing 80 hours a week as a tech guy. And he's getting burnt out, and that's fine. He's making good money because he's doing it for his family, but he wants to position into real estate because he knows the game. Plus he's getting hosed in taxes. He's getting hosed in taxes. And so I showed him how, by the end of the chat, he's like, wait a minute, I can avoid all my taxes, my income taxes? And I'm like, well, not the state, but I can show you how to wipe out most of your federal. Yeah. And he just about lost his pants. It was incredible. But once he saw that game, he's like, if I only do it for the tax benefits, I'll do that. Okay. So it's crazy, but that was great. But that's one of the frequently asked questions. Number 2, how much time do I need each week to be successful in this? The answer is, in the beginning, 5 to 10 hours a week in the beginning. As you get more deals going, of course, you're making more money. You'll probably want to spend more time. But in the beginning, 5 to 10 hours a week, finding deals, analyzing them, writing offers. Finding deals, analyzing, writing offers. Then when you get the deals, more time. Okay, but you're making money doing it. So therefore it makes sense. But in the beginning, 5 to 10 hours a week. Another frequently asked question I get, hey, and you saw this earlier, I only have 20 to 50 grand. Can I get started? The answer is yes. And you saw that on that first deal, right? So you can actually come in with, say, $30,000 out of pocket. So you have to have some capital, $30,000 out of pocket, and have control and ownership of a 10 to 30 unit apartment deal. Okay. So the belief that you need a lot of money to do this, if you found a 20 unit, I asked you this question, everybody here in this chat, if you found a 20 unit apartment deal, hypothetically next week, that made good financial sense, meaning it's returning 15, 18, 20% a year on your money, do you have access to $30,000 to invest and control that deal? Yes or no? Chime in the chat. If you found a deal next week, could you do it? Yes or no? Or maybe you don't have it yet. That's okay too. But I'm actually curious. Like if you found a deal and it made sense, could you pull that off next week? Yes or no? And if you can't yet, that's okay too. Like there's options to learn. And then when that time comes, you can do it. But I'm curious as who could actually pull that off. Okay. So the belief pattern, right? That multifamily is too complex. It's not, right? It is if you do it alone. It is if you do it alone, okay? But it's not if you do it in a community and you do it amongst others who are trying to do the same thing as you, right? If you feel isolated on an island and you're trying to pull it off, it's hard, right? It's hard to do things alone. Just from the mental motivational side, it's hard. But it's not too complex if you're doing it in community and you're doing it in partnerships. Let me give you an example real quick of a few people. And they're different backgrounds, right? Different backgrounds and how they actually came into it and learned it and then started to execute, right? You can even take, this process, I always say this process, it can be intimidating at first, right? But the reality is it's about following a proven system, a pattern. And if you can follow that proven system that's going to walk you through A to Z, I kind of gave you a hint on that at the beginning when I showed you the 5 pillars that we take everybody through and then hold their hands. If you follow that proven system, it's not that complex. It just seems like that in the beginning, but that's why you do this. That's why you can sometimes get handheld. So ACUS, for example, right? ACUS, English was her second language, or is her second language, I should say. She's in the medical field. She figured it out. She started executing. She just went for it. She's figured, I said, hey, I'm going to make this happen. So here's ACUS.
So as soon as I listened to the crash course, I got hooked. It was so funny because that one is a small course. Yeah. However, I think I shared with you before that one of the parts that I enjoy the most is that you simplify language for many of us, and English is my second language. So I really enjoy the way that you were teaching and in this
and being able to kind of explain the complex details and nuance in a layman's terms, simple format to where it actually resonates. Is that what I'm gathering?
Correct, because there is a lot of terminology out there for real estate that seems very intimidating, especially for those who are new to the real estate investment business. And you made it so easy and simplify it in a way that for me resonates. It reminded me a little bit of the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. It's like that.
I will take that compliment.
So that was ACUS, and a good little story with her. And she's actually become a passive investor in our deals too, even our own deals, in addition to her own. So I love that. And then you take Steve, he's a contractor in the upper Midwest. He did his first deal, 39 unit in Cleveland, Ohio. Contractor, right? It wasn't too complex for him. Unless it doesn't want to load. That's possible too. Let's see if it loads here. There we go.
Super stoked for you. Everybody give Steve a clap.
So 39 units. That was the Cleveland deal we were talking about. And how many stories is that thing?
It's 4 stories, little over 40,000 square feet with 4,000 square feet of commercial space.
Right.
It's very challenging.
Now, is that the one you're getting the tax advantages on and all that stuff too?
In your tax, 100% tax abate.
Yeah, so it was really great for him. The city came in because they wanted the development so bad, and they gave him 100% tax abatement on that deal, which was huge, right? To avoid that just from the cost of carrying that thing on and on and on. And then you have Brian, right? Brian's a dock walker, has a training company. He's on his third deal, which is a 56 unit. Started with a 22 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but not too complex for a dock walker. And then he goes and he posted on Instagram on that, which I loved. He pulled that off. That was his first deal. That was in Tulsa, Oklahoma for his 22 unit, his first deal. And he had 20 something thousand bucks out of pocket when that thing came down. So that was incredible. That was incredible. So beautiful. So then, does anybody know who this guy is by chance? Chime in the chat if you know who this guy is. This is Ken McElroy. Ken McElroy. Do you know who this guy is? I'm curious. Yes or no in the chat if you've seen him or know of him. And if you don't, you should. You should. So not some genius though, right? He bought his first investment property as a freshman in college, no previous experience, right? No previous experience. Today, $3 billion, 9,000 units, 5 states, regarded as one of the best gurus in multifamily that's out there. And he's a pretty sharp guy. Pretty sharp guy. He does a lot of good stuff. So that's Ken McElroy. Anybody know any of these faces? Any of these people, kind of influencer folks? Not me, by the way, but other folks in the industry. But none of them were experts either, right? They had to learn this stuff. They had to go from, flipping couches to flipping houses into the multifamily space, or Brandon Turner with bigger pockets and then going on and doing his stuff. Mr. obviously Grant Cardone, apartment rock star, Mr. Robert Martinez, and Carlos Reyes and so forth, right? But the point is like, you have to start somewhere, right? If not you, who else, right? So don't sit there and tell yourself, oh, well, they, had this all level up. They had this, they had that. That's why they got there. No, they just said, hey, I want to do this. I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to jump off the cliff and I'm going to allow the how to show up. We're going to make this happen. I can calculate my risk. I can calculate the risk. That's fine, right? Don't be reckless. But if you want something in life, you got to go get it, man. You got to go get it. And I know you know that. You just got to go make stuff happen, right? Nobody's coming to save you. Okay? Nobody's coming to save you. So that's really, really important. So the belief that multifamily is too complex and it's experts only is just not correct, right? You bring one of two things. You bring in the sweat equity or you bring in the check equity. I call it cash equity. One of the two. One of the two. Sweat equity or check equity to the table. And you have to ask yourself, okay, if I only have some check equity, meaning I got 30,000, 50,000 bucks to invest, well, then you need to learn this skill set, because if you don't learn the skill set, then you're not valuable to people with money. Does that make sense? Right? If it's check equity or sweat equity, and you're sitting here tonight and you're saying, okay, I only have 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, or maybe not even that right now, but I'll get it, right? Great. And if that's where my starting point is at, and I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars or some family to fall back on, well, then you need to have a skill set and you need to know how to execute that skill set. So now you become extremely valuable to people with money. And that's why you're here tonight, to learn some of this stuff, but then take it to the next step, because when you do, now you can go find deals, analyze them, put them together, run the show. You become extremely valuable to people with money. But if you don't know either of them, and if you don't have sweat or check equity, then you're going to sit exactly where you're at and you will go nowhere. You'll be exactly where you're at today and exactly where you're at 6 months from now and exactly where you're at 12 months from now. You have to level up your knowledge and skill set game to get to the next level if you don't have the money that's just flowing in from family and friends. Okay, so it's very, very important to understand that concept. Okay, a question came in from Sean. Why is Idaho, especially west of Boise, not on the friendly state list? Are state laws worse than California? No, Idaho is a great state to invest in. The only challenge with multifamily in Idaho is there's not a lot of deal flow, right? There's not a lot of inventory and deal flow. Even though it's a great state to invest in, values are there, good markets, a lot of good job growth, population growth, all of that's there. It's just not enough turn and deal flow to have it be that great to invest in. It's not a bad state. It's just, you know, you have to have more deal flow, more volume of sales. Yeah, Jeff said the loss is when you don't try. That's right. I'd rather what do they say? I'd rather fail trying than not, you know, not trying at all. That saying, which is a good one. So absolutely. So now false belief pattern that deals are hard to find and the market is oversaturated. That's the false belief pattern number 3, that deals are hard to find and the market is oversaturated. So let's break through that one this evening. Okay. So you're going to go one of 2 ways, direct to broker, or you're going to go direct to the owner. This is how you're going to find deals. Okay. Direct to the owner or direct to the broker. Those are the 2 deals. Question for you. Which one do you think is the easiest to go by? Direct to the broker or direct to the owner? Because that's the 2 ways to find deals. There's only 2 ways to find deals. Direct to owner or direct to broker. That's it. Okay. And the fact that you think the deals are hard to find, the market's oversaturated, the only way you probably think that is because you do things alone and you're not realizing how the game actually works. So we're going to walk through that here briefly. Okay. So the belief pattern that deals are hard to find, the market is oversaturated. If you do it alone, they are. But if you do it together, it's not, right? So here's the direct to broker approach. Let's work through that. So you're going to leverage the brokers and their on-market listings to get access to their off-market opportunities. You're going to use their on-market listings, tour the properties, build relationships, and get access to the pre-market inventory. So question for all of you here, who uses like LoopNet, Crexi, or CoStar? Sean, you'd asked a question, if you're banking finance connections, sometimes they will come to you and save themselves. I don't explain that a little further. I don't fully understand that. So keep in mind, if you're using these websites, Crexi, LoopNet, and CoStar, understand that you are simply seeing the leftovers. Okay, you're seeing the leftover deals. You're not actually seeing the deals. You're seeing the leftovers. Because once you realize the process by which a property comes to market, the broker gets the listing from someone like me. He puts together a nice little marketing package. The broker then sends it out and circulates it amongst 25 to 50 of his investor friends. And then it's going to sell probably 90% of the time right there. Right there. It'll never get to the websites. So by the time it gets to the websites, it's because everybody else turned it down. Which means what? It's probably overpriced, which is why you look at a lot of these deals and you simply get frustrated because you're like, I don't see any good deals. None of these things make sense. They're all overpriced. All these other things going on in your mind. And that's because they are. They have to be heavily negotiated because everybody turned them down in the pre-market phase, which is why the broker took it to the website hoping that somebody would overpay for the property. But if you're running financials and real good fundamentals, you won't. You won't. But the direct-to-broker approach is to use those on-market listings on those websites, Crexi, LoopNet, CoStar, to find out who the brokers are that's doing the deals. Get behind the scenes and make connections with them through phone calls about their deals, their listings, and then you make a little relationship. Next thing you know, you're getting past email deals in the pre-market phase. Does this make sense? Yes or no if this makes sense. Chime in thumbs up or thumbs down, because that is the direct-to-broker approach. Now, there's nuance to it. Right? What to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, stuff like that, a process to follow. But once you understand and learn that, I mean, that's the easiest approach is direct to broker. It's the cheapest for you to get involved in. It's the least time consuming. This is how you can have a 9 to 5 or another job and spend still 5 to 10 hours a week doing multifamily and leveraging the broker's connections to get access to deals versus you having to go find everything yourself. Okay. That's the key. Okay. Thumbs up from everybody. Love it. Because that's the main way. Now, there's another approach, which is the direct to owner approach, which is totally fine too. And we use that method. And we've had a software we've developed for a couple of years now that we're using to go find off-market deals, direct to owners. But it's more time consuming, right? You have to do all the legwork, no different than a broker would do to get someone like me to raise my hand. And that's how this would go down. So we have our software, direct to owner. And this is how it goes down. We have realestateradar.ai. right? This is a software we've used for ourselves. We've started to put it out to our community to use as well. But this is how you find off-market direct-to-owner deals using AI technology and overlaying it on public data to get access to deals, okay? So that's the two approaches, right? You got the direct-to-broker and direct-to-owner. Direct-to-broker, direct-to-owner, and the two ways to do that. Two ways to do that. So the belief that deals are hard to find, the market's oversaturated. If you do it alone, yes, the deals are hard to find. But if you do it in community, okay, and you do it together, right, the deals are easier, right? They're not oversaturated. You just need deal flow, and you need to know the ways to get that, okay? And that's why you do that. Answering a couple quick questions. Would you invest in California for multifamily, given the overly tenant-friendly state that it is? So this is a tough question, mainly because we have multifamily in California, in San Diego. Yes, the landlord-tenant laws are bad. The good news is, if you've been a seller in California, you've been making a lot of money because it's been in your benefit, right? Because cap rates, supply constraints, rising rents, you know, good market environments, good growth. I mean, it's happening. It's just, you're right. It's a tough place. It's a tough place to get started. So like I said, if you have limited capital and you want your dollar to go far, you need to be investing outside of most of the coastal zones in the country, right? Into the middle part of the US is ideal. If you need to buy units somewhere between 50,000 a unit to 150,000 a unit. 50,000 unit to 150,000 a unit, because that's where this game can get played and you come out of pocket with limited capital and scale your money, right? So there's certain markets that are ideal for this. I mean, Florida is one of them, even though it's a coastal market. But aside from that, you know, you got to get away from a lot of the coastal zones to get these price points and to get the cash flow you need to get started. You can always go back into those zones when you have more capital, right? And more stuff to spread around, okay? But not in the beginning, especially if you have limited capital. So good question though. Kai had asked, how do you determine to be your ideal areas of interest? What are your top 3 things that you have to check box to be something that you'd consider? In terms of areas, population growth, job growth, and median household income. Population growth, job growth, and median household income. Those are the 3 metrics you will look at for any market to determine whether it's a good market to invest in. And if you want to know where to find that data, in the past, you'd go to a bunch of websites and have to aggregate it yourself. Nowadays, you literally can go to your friend ChatGPT and type in, please, like literally go ask ChatGPT that exact same question and say, name me the top 3 markets in the United States with population, job growth, and median household income, and good for landlord-tenant laws in the states where I can buy units between 50,000 to 150,000 a unit. And watch what ChatGPT gives you. You'll probably crap your pants. Western suburbs of Chicago. Yes, as long as you're outside of the main metro of Chicago and you're actually in Illinois, you're fine, right? It's fair laws. You'd like to be a little farther outside of it. As long as your landlord-tenant laws are fair, you're good to go. As long as you can get somebody out of that unit, they don't pay rent in 30 days, maybe 45 days, you're good to go. Okay, that's what you're looking for. Okay, beautiful, good questions, everybody. So single family and multifamily, single family versus multifamily, the main differences between them. So if you go do single family investing, this is what you get. You get paid 1 to 2 ways, typically. You get some monthly cash flow, and you will get profits at a sale. When you do multifamily, you're going to get all of that stuff you get in single family, plus you get additional cash flow and profits. You get an acquisition fee, an asset management fee, tax benefits, fees at a sale, finder's fees, construction management fees, and so forth. You're getting paid 5 to 8 ways when you own a multifamily building, not just 1 or 2. Does that make sense? And you get major tax benefits, which is why everybody does it to begin with. So that's the benefits of single family versus multifamily. Yeah, Kai, on the tax benefits. So if you don't know what cost segregation and bonus depreciation are, depending on the state you're in and your federal tax rates and all that stuff, the best part about multifamily is how you can take a $100,000 investment, go put it into an apartment building, and literally get a paper loss when you do tax returns. And that paper loss offsets your personal income you currently have. It could be both ordinary income and capital gains. So if you're a doctor, an attorney, high net worth individual, you're making your money now and you're getting hosed in taxes, buying apartment buildings can help wipe all of that out. And that's one of the huge benefits. It's not just the cash flow and the profits, it's the major tax benefits you get from that too. Okay. So that's key. And once people get in and they see that game, they're like, holy cow. I mean, if I only buy apartments just for taxes, that's why people do it. Literally, you'll have people invest in the buildings just to wipe out taxes. So it's key. Let me take you through a case study. Okay, let me take you through a case study. You can actually see money in, money out, what you make, and how it would go down. This is a 31 unit Midwest deal. Was purchased for $53,000 a unit. Okay, $19,000 of my money went into this thing out of pocket. Let me show you how. We bought this thing for $1,525,000. Renoed, $400,000 renovation cost. Closing costs of about $225,000. So we were all in for about $2.15 million bucks. Okay, we went out and got a loan for $1.5 million. Does anybody know why getting $1.5 million loan on a commercial multifamily building is easier than getting a loan on a $200,000 house? An apartment building is its own operating business. Okay, it's its own operating business. And the reason you have to look at it like that, because that's how the bank looks at it like that. They're not looking at it. They're not going to underwrite you personally. They're looking at the property's financials to give you the loan. So getting that loan is far easier than getting a $200,000 house loan, because they're not dissecting you inside and out from your pay stubs and all that other crap that you do when you go get a house. It's just, hey, show me the property's financials. If it makes sense and it'll pay us, you're secondary in the process. Okay, so that's that. Now we had about $650,000 in down payment that had to come in. Now, if I was using the old mindset of getting roadblocked at the money side, I'd stop right here and say, well, I don't have that. And I can't raise that. And I can't do that. And I can't do this. And I can't, all right? You stop. Like, that's a limiting belief system. What you need to realize is you only need to bring in about 10% of that, sometimes less. So we brought in $64,000 from me. The rest, 90% from other people's money. It was about 5 to 7 family and friends, people that came in on that. Now, if you're saying, oh, I don't have family and friends that have money, trust me, you do. You may not even think you do, but people know people that know people. Lead with a good deal. The deal will find the money. Trust me. We will show you how to do it. I thought the same thing, because I had never raised money in my entire life, and I thought there's no way in heck I can raise $600,000 and close on this thing. We did it in a heartbeat because the deal was a good deal. Okay, so you lead with that. So 10% from me, 90% from other people's money. Let me show you how this works further. So that's the breakdown. Now, out of pocket, I got an acquisition fee for $45,000. Right, this is one of the fees you make. So 64 went in, 45 came out to me. So I was actually out of pocket $19,000. Actually out of pocket $19,000. Does this make sense? And yes, Christine, we coach on the renovation. So one of the things in the back end of our portal in our community is we give you spec packages, renovation packages, cost estimates, all of that stuff. Renovations are the easy part. You just need to know how to set up the team and manage it. Great question, though. Based on cash flow. So that's it. I mean, acquisition fees. So that it's like Peter to pay Paul. So I was technically came in with 64, came out within a week of closing this deal. I got a check for $45,000 back. So then out of pocket was $19,000. And now I had control of a 31 unit multi-million-dollar apartment building in the Midwest. And this thing cash flow. It gets even better though. It gets even better. So let's break down the actual money that I get. So 24 months later, so we buy this thing 24 months later. Because of the renovations we did, now the value went from $1,525,000 to $3.6 million. Now we did what's called a cash out refinance. Still kept 70% leverage on it. Remember, don't over leverage. 70% leverage. We pulled out $2.5 million bucks. Paid off the $1.5 million loan. Another $645,000 we returned to all of our investors, including myself. And then we pocketed another $355,000 tax-free. And then we went and bought more deals. And that's how this deal gets done. I was getting an asset management fee paid monthly. I was getting 40% of the profits and 40% of the cash flows, $2,000 a month. Okay, for 5 years, that was $120,000 bucks. My net profits from the sale, $470,000. So my out of pocket was 500. I'm sorry, my out of pocket was 19 grand, but I made 590. This is crazy. And this is not unusual, by the way. This is not unusual. This is literally how these deals go down. But in order to do this, guys, you have to have the skill set. You have to have the knowledge to execute. Once again, check equity or sweat equity. Check equity or sweat equity. If you have all the money, rock and roll, do it yourself. But if you don't, which most people don't, then you have to have the sweat equity. You have to have knowledge, skill sets to go execute this. This is why you learn it. And it's a very valuable skill set. It pays its dividends 9,000-fold. But if you don't learn it and know how to execute it, then you're just going to sit in this kind of pendulum of spinning. So this is very, very key that you understand this. So if you want to do this game, you got to learn the skill set, right? It's like anything. You went to college for that skill set. You're learning this to become millionaires because your income is directly related to the problems that you solve. Has anybody heard that quote before? Your income is directly related to the problems that you solve. If you're making thousands of dollars, it's because you're solving $1,000 problems. If you're making hundreds of thousands, it's because you're solving $100,000 problems. And if you're making millions, it's because you are solving $1 million problems. That's why that happens. These are $1 million problems. You solve these for you and investors, payday. You don't solve them, no payday. So go solve big problems for society, you make big money. It's real simple, okay? Christine, you'd ask, what are private investors looking for during the 2 years? When you say what are they looking for, most investors who invest in these deals alongside you, right, they just typically want a decent return on their money. So if you're producing somewhere between 14 to 20% a year on someone's money, that's a pretty good deal for an investor, right? Think about it. If I were coming to all of you this evening and I was pitching this property and I said, hey, the projected returns for you as an investor are 14 to 20% a year on your money. It's a minimum $25,000 to get involved. Your money's out 3 to 5 years. In this case, it was 3 to 5 years. And here's your projected annual returns on your money. And here's how much you're getting back, right? All of that stuff. That's how that process starts, okay? But yes, 14 to 20% a year on your money is a pretty good deal for investors. Most folks are pulling money out of other things like a 401k, an IRA, obviously stocks, cash accounts, etc., and they're moving it into a real estate asset. So in order for them to take that money out of that and put it into this, you need to have substantial enough returns, which these deals can have, and then you get into great opportunities, okay? Wasn't there interest on the 645 or were they paid monthly? So there's what's called a preferred return, Kathy, preferred return, and that is paid from cash flows or it's accrued until you have the cash flow to pay it. So that's a preferred return. And then you have a percentage of profit splits on a deal, percentage of profit splits on a deal. So that's an addition, okay? But all of that combined, Kathy, makes up your 15 to 20% a year on your money. All of that combined makes up your 15 to 20% a year on your money. All of it, okay? Good question. So you can see what you get when you do this. And this is not an uncommon deal, by the way. This is not an uncommon deal. You just have to know how to run this process and have the skill set to execute it, which is why people come in and learn, okay? So my promise to you this evening was how to buy a 10 to 30 unit apartment deal in the next 90 days with $20,000 out of pocket. We showed you that. We broke it down. We went through these 3 kind of false belief patterns that most people have, that you need a lot of money to get started, right? That it's too complex. You have to be an expert, and that deals are hard to find and the market's oversaturated. So we checked box number 1. We got rid of number 1 in the false belief pattern, number 2, and number 3. And we're able to kind of do this for you and show you how this game can work. Show you how this game can work. We do. Yes, so Kai, we do have underwriting models and deal analyzers and all that stuff. 100% we do. So we can actually show you that stuff, not a problem. A couple additional frequently asked questions. What if you can't find a good deal? I hear that sometimes. What if I can't find a good deal? So we do have a guarantee if people come into our community and work with us, we're going to give you one. Remember, we have our own software. I have people scouring the country all the time. We're finding deals that we're taking down ourselves. We're also wholesaling multifamily. So we have the ability to pre-vet and put deals on a silver platter for people. Heaven forbid, you can't find one and we can't help you do that. Okay, we can give you one, basically pre-vetted on a silver platter. Additional frequently asked question: how do you raise money legally and confidently? I get this question a lot. How do I raise money? There's 3 components to raising money: a deal that makes financial sense, a good pitch deck to describe that deal for an investor, and a process when somebody says, hey, I want to give you my money, you can bring it in. That's kind of the 3 high-level ways to raise money. But raising money, while it does sound intimidating, especially with certain SEC rules that are involved, people fear asking for money the wrong way, or they don't feel that they're credible enough to attract investors, right? And most people have this feeling. I totally understand it. We're going to break through those. You need 3 things, like I said: deal that makes sense, a good pitch deck, and a process to attract the money when somebody says yes. Okay, when somebody says yes. So that is that. What if I mess up on the numbers? That's why you have someone teach you and actually review those numbers with you before you're making offers and going forward on deals. We do that. We review all deals alongside you step by step. Okay. Who's going to manage the property? Third-party property managers. Because especially if you're doing a deal out of state, right, you can't be managing it like that. You need third-party to help you out with that. We show you how to hire the PM companies, and then you become an asset manager managing the managers. That's why you do this. So that way you can continue with your current job and career, because that's paying the bills until this overtakes, right? You still need to do that to earn the money while this thing is in motion building. And then at some point you can make the decision to jump, right? You can make the decision to jump, but you have to be able to run what you're doing now, right? Which is why we've designed everything we've done. So that way you can still stay in your current job, career, do what you're doing, no different than I did. And then as you move this needle towards the multifamily, there becomes this flex point, typically about 2 to 3 years in, where you're going to have a decision. Do I jump full throttle or do I not? But you'll have that decision because of the money you're making. Okay, the money you're making. Christine, yeah, surprised by that. So you can text us, call us. We do have our person answering the phones, so I'm not sure about that. But now that what we'll do here, and what I'd probably like to do too, is if you have interest, Christine, or anybody else in here right now, if you have interest in learning more about our community and anything like that, do me a favor, type in your phone number and your name and your email. Phone number, name, and email privately in the chat to host and panelist. Host and panelist, don't have to send it out to everybody. If you have interest, and that way we can go ahead and we'll reach out directly to you. My apologies if there wasn't somebody getting back to you, Christine. But yeah, go ahead and put your name, phone number, and email in the chat privately to host and panelist right now. And then we'll go ahead and we'll reach you directly. Maybe you even want a quick conversation right now. We can do that. But I do have a question for you as I see it coming in. Thanks you, Yajay, for that. Appreciate that. Yeah, and if anybody else wants that, go ahead and put your name, phone number, and email in privately in the chat. Christine, we can reach out to you. And then Ray, I think I saw you in here earlier, if you wanted that as well. Is there a contract to sign between your mentor and student for 90 days program? Yes, we do have contracts if you'd like to see them. Not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah, Jeff Higgins, I appreciate that. If you want to put in the additional information there, not just your name, but maybe if your phone number's in there and your email would be great. Oh, awesome. Cool. What you get in the mentorship. First and foremost, okay, you're going to get personal access to me every week. Okay, you get 2 calls with me every week in a small group environment where we're walking through all of these processes of buying an apartment complex. Whether you're going through a deal, you're in a deal, or you're moving through a deal, either way, you're on the call in a small, intimate environment. Okay, $9,000 value. You also get my personal cell phone number and my personal email. Specifically, when you're going through deals and you have a lot of questions, we want you to get these things answered. Very, very important. Number 2 is we put you through a 90-day action plan and guide with an accountability coach as well to help walk through this with our steps that we put you through to get you from A to Z. So if you're sitting there and saying, hey, I want to get into a deal in the next 90 days, we have the action plan to put you through. That's not a problem. Everybody needs to do their part. We're going to do ours, but we help hold your hand to get you through it. Okay. So that's an accountability coach in addition to me. Number 3 is we help you with deal review. So you find a deal, you're analyzing it. Well, we want to review those things alongside you to make sure your numbers look good. You're making good decisions before you make an offer, right? So the deal review, underwriting and everything, you submit it right in the back end of the portal in the system, and we're going to review those deals right alongside you, okay? Number 4, capital connections, okay? access to the capital and the debt connections. So we have lenders in the back end of our system that you could submit the deals to. You can see the screenshot right there. Submit your deal to the lenders, and the lenders will review those deals with you. You can get quotes and everything from them to get all the financing on the loan side on your deals. Okay. In addition, with the community, people are obviously investing in other people's deals. So we're going to, number one, we're going to teach you how to fish, not just give you fish. Have you ever heard that saying before? Right? What do they say? They say, give a man fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. So we're going to do both, right? We're going to give you like the opportunities and connections. We're going to give you some fish, introductions, capital people in the community that can invest in deals, all of that for the equity side, right? The OPM money, and then have direct connections with all the lenders so they can get the financing for you. So both, okay? Number 5, sourcing the off-market deals. Remember I said it's direct to broker or direct to owner. Direct to broker or direct to owner. We're going to give you access to our software so you can try it out, see if you like it for the direct to owner approach. You don't need it, but you get to try it out and have it as part of the community. Number 2, the direct to broker approach, we're going to walk you through that. So you can start seeing deal flow into your inbox direct from the brokers. You just need to understand the process to go through to do that. That's key. Okay, it's key. So sourcing the off-market deals. Number 6, the lifetime investor community. So we have a mobile app now. It's Apple Store approved and Android approved. In addition to the desktop and the login portal that you get, everything's on your mobile device. So this way you can network, communicate, see deals. We're putting in deals in there all the time. You can actually look at all that communication, collaboration, training, everything is done through the mobile app now. Super cool. And you have lifetime access to that. It never sunsets. Okay, the entire program never sunsets. Because when you come in, ultimately what I would love to do with everybody and what we're doing now is we get you into your first deal, 10 to 30 units. We get you into another deal, 10 to 30 units. I know darn well once that happens, you're going to want to go bigger. And now you're going to start seeing 50, 60 unit deals. Well, you're probably going to want co-partners. You're probably going to need more capital and partners. That's where we can come in. We would love to partner with you. No problem, right? But once again, you got to come in, be well-trained, and then we can rock and roll, okay? Lifetime portal, I talked about that with the app, so you get that access. The masterclass, everything A to Z on the back end, walks you through everything step by step, right? And that just basically solidifies our training we do personally. Because the personal training you're getting twice a week with me is the critical path. This masterclass and all that stuff just reinforces it, okay? And then our toolbox and then our setup. So question here, I'm curious, who here has a LLC set up currently? We also help you with that stuff too, by the way. So our business in a box, we call it our multifamily business in a box, has LLC set up, CRM, and website. The reason for the CRM and the website is you are now officially going to become a multifamily investor. You need to look the part. You have to be presentable online a bit. We template everything for you. We give it all to you. We even have the vendors who can customize it for you all in the back end of the system. Because this is how you're going to help raise money. You're officially running a multifamily apartment business. Okay, so let's rock and roll and make it happen and look official. We're going to help you do that and give everything to you. We also have our toolbox. Our toolbox has every document you're ever going to need to buy an apartment complex. Everything. The deal analyzers, the pitch decks, the letters of intent, due diligence checklists, legal documents, purchase contracts. I mean, you name it, it's all there. All there. And we're always adding to it, but that's your document library toolbox that you get as a part of it. Okay. And then lastly is our guarantee. It's our guarantee that if we can't help you locate a multifamily deal that makes financial sense in the next 90 days, we're going to give one to you through our Deals on Demand program. As I said earlier, I have a team scouring, looking for deals. We're teeing them up. We're pre-vetted. If we need to hand those things on a silver platter, no problem. Obviously, we want to get you a deal first, but if somehow that doesn't happen, we have a guarantee. We haven't had to use this yet, but we will, and we will make sure you get a deal. Okay? So that's key. That's key. So that is kind of like the high-end level of it. And so by question of hands and everybody's seen in here, just to kind of give you concept for what it costs and what it is, let me show you that now, okay? So here's kind of a review of everything that's included in it. We went over that. And then in terms of the costs to get into it, if you'd like to know what that is, here's what that is. So a rundown of everything from a value perspective of what you get, right? The weekly mentorship calls with me 2 times a week, $9,000 value. 90-day action plan, accountability coach also assigned to you, $4,000 value. The deal review process, $3,500 value. Access to the capital partners, the lenders, $4,000 value. Sourcing the off-market deals and the software, $3,000 value. Lifetime community access, $5,000 value. The masterclass, all A to Z stuff, $3,500 value. The business in a box and all that stuff and the guarantee, $13,000 value with all that. Okay, so total value is $65K. Total value is $65K. But I ask a lot of people these questions, right? If it finally gets you into your first deal in your first apartment, is it worth it? If it gives you the skill sets, remember the sweat equity, if it gives you the skill sets to do this and overcome this and all the false belief patterns, is it worth it? Right? Is it worth it? So obviously you're not paying $65K. It's worth that, but you're not paying that. So we have two options for you to come in if you have interest. Option one is this. It's retail cost of $10K. So that's the cost of the mentorship, right? But you have option A, you can come in with a one pay and it's 30% off for $7,000. Once again, this is a lifetime community and program, lifetime. Option B, if you need more of a payment plan structure, we can offer that to you up to 5 payments at $2,000 a month. So that's pretty much the two main options for that. And it's just a question of what's best for you and what's easiest for you, right? To keep in mind. So that's kind of what's included in the program and what it is. I try to be very transparent with people, right? Be very direct. So that way you understand what you're getting, what you can expect, and all of that involved, and kind of the costs involved too. It's a tremendous value, tremendous value. Just depends on what's best for you and where you're trying to go.